This is a Fox News alert. The headquarters of YouTube in San Bruno, California, was rocked by a shooting today. The shooter was a woman, apparently. She, according to police, took her own life. Fox correspondent Claudia Cowan is at the scene with the latest on that. Claudia?
And Tucker, good evening once again. Police confirming that the female shooter died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound after opening fire here at YouTube headquarters in San Bruno. 4 other people were injured. Now, witnesses describe hearing several bursts of rapid-fire gunshots. One woman who was shot in the leg got help from workers at a nearby fast food restaurant. She's going to be okay, but one man is listed in critical condition. President Trump is expressing his sympathies via Twitter. California U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein also sending her prayers to the victims and calling for stronger gun control measures. Police have not confirmed a motive, but the Associated Press now saying that this incident is being investigated as a domestic dispute. And Tucker, we know a mass shooting by a woman is very rare. Back to you.
It certainly is. There's probably a lot more to this story. Claudia Cowan on the scene for us. I appreciate that. That's it for us tonight. Tune in every night, 8 p.m. to the show that's the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, Sean Hannity from New York. Hey, Sean.
All right, Tucker, great show, and welcome to Hannity. Ton of breaking news tonight. You won't get it in the liberal mainstream media. Washington Post reporting at this hour, the special counsel Robert Mueller told President Trump's attorney the president is not a criminal target. But, of course, that witch hunt continues. Also, President Trump is taking bold action and saying the U.S. military will guard the southern border until that wall is built. Now, this comes, of course, as a caravan of more than 1,000 asylum seekers and migrants are traveling through Mexico to America. And tonight there are reports that has now been stalled. Also, breaking news from Sarah Carter. Now, text messages from the corrupt Trump-hating FBI lovebirds, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, show that the FBI appears to have improperly coordinated with the DOJ to expedite the FISA warrant to spy on Trump campaign associate Carter Page. And also breaking, a new memo is now showing that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, in fact, allowed Robert Mueller to go way beyond his mandate to investigate Paul Manafort. Now, this includes using the phony Clinton bought and paid for dossier to go after the former Trump campaign chairman, and also breaking a brand new poll showing 67% of you, the American people, want a special counsel to be appointed to investigate the severe FISA abuses against the Trump campaign, and 77% of Americans see fake news for what it is. Now, this, of course, after the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, appointed a Utah prosecutor to do essentially a lot of the same things. We'll explain all that. Plus, I have a special message for the Destroy Trump media, once again trying to twist and distort my words in their latest attempt to smear, slander, besmirch me. And that's all happening in tonight's Breaking News opening monologue. All right, breaking tonight, just moments ago, the Washington Post reported Robert Mueller has informed President Trump's lawyers that the president, well, still the witch hunt continues. However, he is not currently a criminal target. Is important news. The Post is also reporting Mueller is, quote, preparing to report about the president's actions while in office and potential obstruction of justice. And we're going to analyze this new development in a minute. But first, we also have the president refusing to back away from his promise to secure America's borders. Now, here's the current situation. Congress has repeatedly failed to pass tough immigration laws, and people are flooding into our country. Democrats, they have been obstructing every single step of the way. They're not interested in solving problems. They're not even interested in helping DACA recipients because they want to make this a big campaign issue in 2018 this year. And according to reports, that caravan of more than 1,000 asylum seekers and immigrants heading for the United States has now reportedly stalled out in Mexico. This comes after the president said he pressured Mexico to do so. Watch this.
I have just heard that the caravan coming up from Honduras is broken up, and Mexico did that. And they did it because, frankly, I said, you really have to do it. We're going to have a relationship on NAFTA. We're going to have to include security in NAFTA. So Mexico, very strong laws, and that's the way it is. So it looks like it's been broken up.
Now, the president also tonight signaling that he is done playing games when it comes to our border security. He is now saying he will use the U.S. military to help secure the border. Let's take a look.
So I told Mexico, and I respect what they did, I said, look, your laws are very powerful. Your laws are very strong. we have very bad laws for our border. And we are going to be doing some things. I've been speaking with General Mattis. We're going to be doing things militarily. Until we can have a wall and proper security, we're going to be guarding our border with the military. That's a big step. We really haven't done that before, or certainly not very much before.
Now think about this, all the drug trafficking, human trafficking, and of course, the possibility that terrorists too can cross that border. This is a major national security issue, and there's a reason why Mexico all of a sudden now appears at the last minute willing to cooperate with the Trump administration to stop the caravan. Now that's because President Trump is applying a tremendous amount of pressure, just like he did with little rocket man Kim Jong-un. Now President Trump is telling Mexico, if they don't act, NAFTA negotiations will be in jeopardy. And he also threatened to pull foreign aid from Honduras, where many of these migrants are coming from. Now, it's about time an American president stood up for our country's sovereignty. And because the media and the left loves to distort conservative positions on this, let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with people coming to the United States of America. We're just asking it be done legally. We are a constitutional republic. We have laws. Those laws need to be obeyed. You can't have a country when illegal immigrants, non-citizens, can enter as they please. And guess what? That's what the president is now trying to do here. And by the way, enough is kind of enough when it comes to Mexico and people like their former president, Vicente Fox. He's lecturing us about how we deal with illegal immigration. Yet under Vicente Fox, Mexico sharply increased their police, their military presence at their own southern border, and they spend millions of dollars upgrading security checkpoints. As a result, from 2002 to 2006, detentions, deportations increased by 74% in Mexico. This is ridiculous, beyond hypocritical for Mexico to constantly be lecturing the United States regarding immigration laws when they are far tougher than we've ever been. And for sending military personnel to secure the borders, well, liberals and the media are so outraged that President Trump would dare to do that. Here's the thing. They're completely silent, of course, when President Obama did that exact thing back in 2010. Back then, Obama sent 1,200 National Guard troops to the border to help Border Patrol agents. And remember, in 2014, former Texas Governor Rick Perry, he called up the National Guard to protect the border because the Obama administration wasn't doing enough. So it's not like this is unprecedented. Here's another point the liberal media will never tell you. It was so quick to criticize President Trump for saying that he wants to use part of the military's budget to build the border wall. It's a national security issue. Now, according to a 2009 Congressional Research Service report, the military has already been used to help construct the border wall by past presidents, including George W. Bush and even Barack Obama. Now, those are facts. The media will never tell you any of this because it doesn't fit their anti-Trump agenda. And according to a new survey, 89% of Border Patrol agents say a wall system in strategic locations is necessary to secure the border. Now, that's coming directly from the people on the ground there every day risking their lives. Why not give them what they're asking for? And what President Trump is calling for is security and accountability. It is that simple. And for the record, this position is similar to the one that Barack Hussein Obama once held. You may remember him saying this.
Those who enter our country legally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law. And because we live in an age where terrorists are challenging our borders, we cannot allow people to pour into the U.S. undetected, undocumented, and unchecked.
Wow, he sounds like Donald Trump. Now, Obama only changed his stance when it became politically expedient. And as for President Trump, according to the Wall Street Journal, the Trump administration will put quotas in place and start evaluating immigration judges on the number of cases that they hear in order to speed up and expedite potential deportations of illegal immigrants. Now, remember, someone gets caught entering America illegally, they're actually allowed to stay here until they get to their court date, and about 98% of them never show up. So it's the height of ignorance and stupidity, and that's why President Trump wants to change it. Now, other countries, for example, let's look at Australia. They don't roll out the red carpet for illegal immigrants like we do. Now, when Australia catches asylum seekers trying to enter their country, well, they're very compassionate. They give them food, they give them water, they give them medical attention if they need it. And then they send the migrants back to from where they came. It's beyond past time. America used the same common sense measures to secure our borders. All right, also brand new tonight, another major report. Sarah Carter, who will join us in a few minutes. Here's the headline. Bombshell, secret texts show FBI, DOJ may have rushed anti-Trump FISA warrant. And according to Sarah Carter, congressional investigators have now discovered new text messages between anti-Trump FBI agents, lovebirds Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, that show possible coordination between the FBI and the DOJ to get a FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign associate, Carter Page. In one of the text messages Sarah has obtained, Strzok is whining and complaining to Page that a warrant in the Russia investigation is being held up. And one of the congressional investigators is now telling Sarah tonight, quote, everything here from the text complaining about FISA delays to the exchanges indicating coordination to the White House visitors log, well, it seems to be matched to a disturbing degree. At best, it's a strange coincidence worth investigating now, but of course, it's much likely more. So you have the FBI using an unverified Clinton bought and paid for dossier as part of a FISA application. They then rushed to get a FISA warrant approved, and new evidence points to coordination between the Obama White House, the FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA. Sarah will explain all of this in a few minutes. Now, also tonight, Robert Mueller secures his first conviction. Got to give him a lot of credit in his witch hunt. A Dutch lawyer was just sentenced to 30 days in jail. 30 whole days, and is being ordered to pay a $20,000 fine for lying to the FBI. That's it? And it had nothing to do with Russia collusion. The media played this up. They thought this guy was getting 20 years. In reality, it looks like a giant waste of your money. Now, while the media was hyper-focused on this apparent Dutch lawyer and this travesty, they missed a massive story that proves Robert Mueller is carrying out a witch hunt that is being aided and abetted by his buddy, the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. And according to an August memo written by Rosenstein, he actually authorized Mueller to go after Paul Manafort's work with the Ukrainian government, which happened way, way before Manafort ever had anything to do with Donald Trump and the Trump campaign. Now, in addition to that, none of the charges Manafort is facing have anything to do with any of that. And, of course, that's only half the story. Washington Times reporting that Mueller investigated Paul Manafort on an allegation from the never corroborated, now known to be lies, that Clinton bought and paid for dossier that came from an unnamed Russian source and sources. It's pretty shocking, but it shouldn't come as a surprise. The special counsel Mueller is corrupt as they come. He doesn't seem to care about truth, doesn't care about facts, doesn't care about evidence. He doesn't care about being fair, doesn't care that he's biased. Look at the team he has assembled, a team of Democratic donors that donated to Hillary, Obama, the DNC. We can't ignore that Rod Rosenstein, well, he's the guy that appointed Mueller. Rosenstein is giving Mueller free rein to do whatever the hell he wants. And whatever happened, by the way, to this so-called collusion turned out to be a witch hunt. And Rod Rosenstein, he should be ashamed of himself. And frankly, he's the same guy that signed the FISA extension against Trump associate Carter Page and then appointed Mueller. Does anyone see that as a conflict of interest? And like we have been saying, Rosenstein needs to go. And also tonight, a brand new poll, 67% of you, the American people, think that a second special counsel should in fact be named to investigate all the disturbing FISA abuses that we have been reporting on and the media has been ignoring. Because you, the American people, understand the severity of this, because it's a massive abuse of power, and that the DOJ and the FBI, they cannot investigate themselves because that is a massive conflict of interest. It's called abuse of power. Now, while the Attorney General Jeff Sessions said he won't be naming a second special counsel, he has appointed Utah prosecutor John Huber since November. We didn't know about it. Good for Jeff Sessions to serve in a similar capacity. Now, while it's not a special counsel, it's a massive development. And as a federal prosecutor, Huber will be able to convene a grand jury, gather evidence, issue subpoenas, have witnesses testify. And that means he'll be able to properly investigate these FISA abuses, the FBI putting the fix in on the Clinton email investigation, kickbacks to the Clinton Foundation, the corrupt Uranium One deal, and, of course, lying to a FISA judge and the phony dossier that she paid for. A major development, and it's just getting started. Another quick point tonight. Jill McCabe. She is the wife of the fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Well, she has an op-ed in the Washington Post where she's claiming to be setting the record straight. Now, predictably, Jill McCabe excuses the fact that her husband was fired for lying under oath multiple times about a number of issues. And instead, she's blaming President Trump. If the dog bites, the bee stings, if you're feeling sad, and if you have a headache and a hangover, it's Donald Trump's fault. Now, Jill McCabe seems to be downplaying the fact she got over $700,000 in campaign money from key Clinton ally, BFF Terry McAuliffe, and the Virginia Democratic Party when she had a failed state Senate run. Now, state Senate candidates in Virginia, they never get that kind of money. So the McCabes, they can whine all they want in public about what happened, but facts are facts. You can't change that. All right, finally tonight, I have a special message for the abusively biased media that once again is trying to smear me. So yesterday on my radio show, I was making a point about Robert Mueller dividing this country at a level we have not seen in forever, which he undoubtedly is doing and has been doing. And I made reference to it's like a civil war in this country because of his abusively biased team, corrupt Democrats, people that see truth. We're sick and tired of it. And it's dividing those that hate Trump, those that like Donald Trump. Look at the person like Andrew Weissman he appointed. Now, what the media didn't report to you, well, I was talking about a really deep divide that the arrogant Mueller's creating and that Americans are more divided than ever. And I was actually talking about family members, a civil war, and they're going to sit at dinner and they're going to have food fights and they're going to throw mashed potatoes and broccoli at each other at the dinner table. I wasn't talking about a real civil war, and I was very clear. Now, this sent the media into a frenzy, but they quickly ignored everything I said. And they raced to take me out of context, like they always do, claiming, oh, Hannity wants a civil war in America. No, I'm saying we're more divided than ever. And as you know from watching this show, this is what the media does all the time, but I'm not going to sit back and take their crap. We're going to call out the corrupt media in this country. For example, the media lost it over me saying the word civil war. Okay, we went to the archives. They have said it many more times than I have, and we've got the proof.
He is clearly trying to ignite a civil war in this country.
We are in the midst of a cold civil war in this country, a political and cultural civil war.
Tonight we're watching a civil war between mostly Southern senators loyal to the man from Alabama.
The only civil war I see is on Twitter, and that doesn't even really matter.
Governor, you've called this an economic civil war, and I know that's what you're touching on.
In a way, I understand it because we're fighting the last battle of the Civil War.
Oh, nobody cared about them saying it. So the media can't stand the fact, and this is the truth, night after night on this program, well, we are proving them to be complete, total liars and frauds, abusively biased on everything involving Donald Trump. And sadly, they have missed the biggest story of their lifetimes while they've been obsessing over a Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory where there's no evidence. And now that the liberal media has been exposed, they're lashing out at people like me. We've been right. It's no wonder there's a new poll from Monmouth University. It's showing that 77% of you, the American people, believe the traditional media in this country reports fake news, because they do. And at this point, it's pretty much to be expected, but we can promise you we're always going to fight back against their extreme bias and their lying. All right, joining us now is Fox News investigative reporter Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. All right, Sarah, let's go into your piece today. I left out some of the details. I'll let you fill in the gaps.
Well, congressional investigators have discovered, once again, another trove of text messages between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, the two FBI agents. And what these text messages in particular reveal, that the FBI may have improperly coordinated with Department of Justice officials to try to expedite FISA applications on Carter Page. And what was interesting about this, Sean, is that if you look at it, they talk about David Loffman. Now, he hasn't come up quite frequently at all in the media. David Loffman was a DOJ prosecutor. Strzok is talking to Lisa Page about David Loffman. He was in charge of the Hillary Clinton investigation on the DOJ side. He was a very senior level official in charge of national security as well as Russia. And Peter Strzok tells Lisa Page basically, look, you know, I'm upset with Loftman. Loftman's trying to explain why these things aren't moving fast enough in the Eastern District of Virginia, probably referencing that, you know, the area where the subpoenas had been issued by Mueller, and the FISA application isn't moving fast enough. So it kind of shows this buildup. They also noticed that that White House logs actually correlated with some of these text messages. So as they were discussing this back and forth, they bring up another guy from the DOJ, Matthew Axelrod. He's a DOJ prosecutor who's involved in the case. They talk about him. They talk about the frustration. They talk about Andy McCabe maybe coming under fire or by some of these folks at the DOJ for the supposed information that was in the application. And then they say 2 days later, after these text messages are exchanged, Matthew Axelrod actually goes to the White House and signs the visitor's log and actually visits President Trump. And I think what we're looking at here is little pieces of the puzzle. How much did people in the White House know? Did the president know about this investigation himself? What we do know now is, based on information that came out last week, is that very senior level members in the FBI, the CIA, and in the White House were well aware of this investigation early on and may have coordinated.
Greg.
Well, I think the big news really comes out of the court documents. Thanks to Manafort's attorneys, we now know that Rosenstein admits that he wrote intentionally a vague order in his appointment of Mueller, trying to mislead the American public.
Intentionally vague to mislead.
Right, to mislead and disguise what it is they were doing. He didn't realize or anticipate that Manafort's lawyer is going to say, wait a minute, this violates the special counsel law. And they go to a judge and make a motion to dismiss. So now we find out that in addition to writing this vague memo, they secretly, Rosenstein secretly writes a specific memo and hides it from the American public, authorizing the Manafort investigation.
Is he conflicted because he reauthorized the FISA warrant against the Trump campaign associate and appointed Mueller?
Both, yes. And the other interesting thing is, look at the date on his secret memo authorizing the Manafort investigation. It's a full week after Mueller ordered the raid on Manafort's home in the pre-dawn hours.
Sounds like a CYA to me.
Exactly.
Counselor.
It's exactly what they did. They realized after the fact, oh, wait a minute, we may have violated the special counsel law.
Did they violate it?
Oh, absolutely. The law says you have to specifically identify facts, and because it's a criminal investigation, identify a crime.
And the Attorney General Sessions didn't recuse himself from this part.
No.
Wouldn't that be something that he had to involve himself in?
Well, he recused himself from anything related to a Russian meddling in the campaign.
All right. Unbelievable. Real quick, Sarah, I hear you.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, but who holds them accountable? Who will hold Rosenstein accountable, Mueller accountable? Those are the questions we really need to ask now.
That's why you need a second special counsel to investigate the investigators.
You don't like, Jonathan Turley said this may end up working faster for Trump by appointing this Utah prosecutor.
It could, because he is, as Turley points out, armed with the ability to issue warrants and subpoenas and interview witnesses.
Rather than a special counsel long investigation.
Exactly.
Right. Thank you both. Appreciate it. When we come back, Dan Bongino, Sebastian Gorka, Geraldo Rivera on the president's plan. He's sending the military to guard your border. You don't want to miss that fiery debate. And Alan Dershowitz in studio, straight ahead.
The Mexican border is very unprotected by our laws. We have horrible, horrible and very unsafe laws in the United States, and we're going to be able to do something about that hopefully soon. Hopefully Congress will get their act together and get in and create some very powerful laws like Mexico has and like Canada has and like almost all countries have. We don't have laws. We have catch and release. You catch and then you immediately release, and people come back years later for a court case, except they virtually never come back. So we are preparing for the military to secure our border between Mexico and the United States. We have a meeting on it in a little while with General Mattis and everybody, and I think that it's something we have to do.
President Trump earlier today responding to a question about his plan to send National Guard troops and the military to protect our southern border. Here with reaction, NRA TV contributor, former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, Fox News national security strategist Sebastian Gorka, author of the brand new, soon-to-be New York Times bestseller, The Geraldo Show, a memoir. And I had the honor of hosting a party for Geraldo last night, even though we disagree on this issue. Correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera. All right, Geraldo, if you're going to have a caravan of people planning to confront basically every border agent, this is now a national security threat. Every agent will be at risk. Mexico is allowing this to happen when they usually just throw people in Central America out or in jail. And if Mexico does this, they are responsible for anything that happens at the border if people become violent, in my opinion. Your reaction?
First of all, you're not promoting a civil war, otherwise you wouldn't be friends with me. I embrace your gracious generosity and your hospitality, and thank you so much for the party.
We had the best time.
It was fantastic for the book. I just think that this whole story of the caravan is tremendously hyped. For the last 10 years, this group, Pueblos Sin Fronteras, People Without Borders, has been organizing these Easter time marches to demonstrate the needs of people to leave their homelands, in this case, Honduras, to flee, and they want a regulated approach. They want more immigrant rights and all the rest of it. This caravan was larger than most of them, but it's 1,000 miles from the U.S. border. It's already, as you said at the top of the program, Sean, breaking up. The caravan is disbanding.
Only because the president threatened Mexico, though.
Well, it could be that that's what put pressure on it to stop it right there. But the women and children that comprise most of this group, they had no way of getting to the U.S. border. They have no money. They have nothing. They are fleeing some severe economic repression.
Dr. Gorka, if they don't stop this and that group of people gets to the border, it's going to be Mexico's fault if anything happens. Because you don't know when you have crowds like that and people saying publicly they think they have a right to come in here illegally.
Legally, it's Mexico's responsibility, and any nation that they've traversed on their way to America. Because if you are seeking asylum, if you're not just coming here for our economy, for our benefits, then you have to seek asylum in the first country that provides it after you leave your country. This is either a political stunt or these people are simply being used. And look, Geraldo mentioned it. What's the name of the organization? People Without Borders. In that speech to the bankers, the transcript of which was leaked during the campaign, she said her dream was to have a borderless hemisphere. No borders from Canada right down to South America. That's the left globalist ideal. And in that case, America ceases to exist.
Yeah. Dan, I got to be honest. We need to send the military down. There's precedents to send the military down. And this is a national security.
I think people are being hoodwinked. This is a negotiation. President Trump.
I find it interesting. You always talk about illegal immigration in terms of the effect on the illegal. What about the American population, the taxpayer financing this nonsense? What about the legal immigrants, Geraldo, who patiently waited in line? This is the one crime we only talk about in terms of the illegal.
All right, let's give Dr. Gorka the last word. I'm not trying to go, just constraints of time.
Look, Dan's point is a very important one, and the people who are hurt the most are Americans, and the person at the bottom of the ladder is the recently arrived immigrant, and they are harmed the most by illegal aliens, and that's just
we have zero unemployment. How are they hurting? How are they hurting? We have zero unemployment
because
in this
they come in, they work illegally, and they'll work for can I answer? They will work for a fraction of what somebody who is here legally like myself is. They will undercut because they'll be paid cash under the table, and that hurts real Americans who are here legally.
Build the border wall. Give the dreamers a path to
compromise.
citizenship.
Build the wall.
All right, we're going to leave it there.
You have to meet us in the middle.
Citizenship. It's
Thank
called
you
the
all.
immigration process.
Congrats on the book, Geraldo. All right, when we come back, Ed Henry on how the rest of Washington is reacting to the president's military plan. Also, Jesse Waters, Jessica Tarlov, whose world will it be? Alan Dershowitz. All right, so the president's bold plan to use the U.S. military to guard our southern border until the much-needed wall is complete is causing a stir in both Washington and in Mexico tonight. Joining us live from the White House with more, Fox News chief national correspondent. Never a dull moment, Ed Henry.
Nonstop, Sean. Good to see you tonight. The bottom line is we've heard the president in recent days ramping up the rhetoric on illegal immigration as that caravan moves through Central America towards the U.S. border. What's new tonight is that the president is now promising dramatic action to back up those words, using the American military to help secure the southern border until the wall is built. What he did today is he convened a meeting with Defense Secretary James Mattis, other top cabinet and military officials, to say that in the absence of action by Congress, he wants executive action to crack down on illegal immigration, drugs, violent gangs coming from Mexico and elsewhere in Central America. Tonight, White House officials are making very clear the president is talking about mobilizing the National Guard to secure the southern border, not active duty military. That's prohibited by law because active duty military cannot get involved in domestic law enforcement actions like apprehensions at the border. Yet there was a bit of a freakout from some Democrats, like Congressman Ruben Gallego of Arizona, who tweeted today, quote, "Real Donald Trump wants to use our troops to advance his extreme anti-immigrant agenda while wasting time, resources, and money and depleting our military strength in areas of real danger. Congress must stop this misguided scheme." What he and other Democrats seem to have missed is that then President Barack Obama in 2010, George W. Bush in 2006, they did similar things. The Obama administration sent 1,200 National Guard troops to the southern border to assist Border Patrol and immigration officials amid concerns about drug trafficking. They provided intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. The Bush administration launched Operation Jumpstart, 6,000 members of the Guard for engineering, road, and fence building. What the president today seemed to be saying that's different is that he may be looking at a more aggressive approach where the National Guard perhaps takes on a more direct law enforcement role. Plus, a senior official here tonight is saying the number of National Guard troops will be, quote unquote, substantial, suggesting at least a larger number than we've ever seen before. We're going to have to obviously fact check that and see how it plays out. Now, as you noted, the reaction from Mexico, swift and negative. Vicente Fox, the former president, saying real Donald Trump to militarize the southern border is to provoke more hate and distance even further between our nations. Somebody has to talk some sense into him. He's elevating his hate towards Mexico, causing a greater conflict. The current Mexican government, by the way, sent an official request to the White House late today saying they want clarification on what the president's remarks really mean for this relationship. And we're told that the Homeland Security Secretary for the president has been in touch, Sean.
All right, Ed Henry at the White House tonight. Joining us now with the reaction, the co-host of The Five, Waters World. It's his world, we live in it. Fox News. How's that thing go again? Yeah, okay. Fox News contributor. Vicente Fox.
You didn't even say my name, by the way. You just said
Jessica
it. Fox News contributor.
Jessica, everybody knows you. Vicente Fox is full of crap because he used to send people from Central America back to the country they came from after he put them in jail, and there was no deportation, no rights, right back to where they came from. So how does he get to lecture us?
Well, I don't know. I enjoy his Twitter feed, but I think that is a valid point. He's not in office
You must
anymore.
really love President Trump's Twitter feed.
No, I don't even follow him, but obviously I see it around.
You're missing a lot.
Yeah.
We followed for you, Jessica.
Yeah, you two do. No, I understand that argument of Vicente Fox, but also if you look at who is in this, quote, caravan, you have the elderly, you have infants, you have people.
Here we go.
Well,
Listen, you want to be compassionate, but you want to be smart too. This caravan's a stunt. They've been doing it for 6 years. This is the first time they derailed the caravan because President Trump said knock it off to the Mexican government. And what happens is the caravan goes to one sector and it draws all our Border Patrol agents there, and then the coyotes just sneak around the other side. It's a setup. You want to be smart, but you have to be tough.
I think that that's totally fine, but we have the lowest level of illegal border apprehensions at the border since 1971.
300,000 they caught at the border. That's not a small amount of people.
Out of the country, which we haven't had before. President Obama was the deporter-in-chief. I don't know why you guys don't love him for that.
Deporter-in-chief?
That was his nickname.
Okay. No,
What?
how many people a year are coming across the border?
There's 300,000 people they're catching at the border. And think about the ones they're not catching.
Lowest level since 1970.
Okay, 300,000 is not a low level.
I've been in the drug warehouses. I've been there when gang members were arrested. We have the videotape.
That sounds scary.
And you know what? If somebody can come across because they want a job and our borders are open, so too can a terrorist that wants to destroy an American city.
Right, but how often is that what's actually happening?
Why are you willing to- why are you willing to
I'm not,
risk
but
it?
you're also acting as if our borders are just completely open,
Pretty
which
much.
is a complete fallacy.
The
That's
Border
absolutely
Patrol
not
themselves,
true.
they want a wall.
Yeah,
I thought the Democrats supported workers. If the workers are saying, let's have a wall, let's give them a wall.
It's a massive infrastructure project. Listen, I believe
Don't you guys like infrastructure?
Don't put it in quotes. It's real.
Don't you want infrastructure? A lot of
we do,
union
actually.
jobs
and
will be
there are a lot of
created.
Democrats who have been on record and are currently on record saying that we will certainly work with the president on a wall system.
Okay.
But this idea,
wall system, not a wall.
But
Let's
it
have a
is
real
a wall system.
A wall
You're not
system.
going to, the
That sounds like
terrain
Clinton
doesn't
saying,
allow.
you know, we were alone, but I never thought we were alone. Same thing.
That's hilarious.
Thank you.
You can't build a wall.
Jesse,
I liked it.
You two love talking to each other.
I mean, listen, Jessica, let me make this point. In your apartment, do you have a wall system? No, you have a wall.
Well,
and it's to keep people from coming in.
Yeah,
you don't let people come into your place
Gotta
at
keep
night.
the boyfriend out in the living room, right?
Right, but
Give me
the
a nut.
boyfriend knocks, you open it up, oh, it's my boyfriend, you let him in. You don't just let in a stranger, have him sleep at your apartment and not pay rent.
Yeah, I get this on Twitter all the time, like, how many illegals do you have coming to stay in your apartment, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe we should
But
send
that's
the
not point.
caravan to your house.
That's really nice. Yeah, I'm not giving my address. But when you look at the
Why not?
statistics, is
What
that
are you
a joke?
afraid of?
I'm afraid of
Be
weirdos on
compassionate.
Twitter.
Afraid of weirdos.
Yeah.
Well,
Not illegal weirdos, American
if you lived
citizen
in San
weirdos.
Diego, would you invite the illegals to live with you?
I really don't think that saying that the 11 million who are here already and who
I didn't
work
talk
hard,
about the 11. I said if you lived in San Diego, would you let illegals live with you?
I don't want to let anyone live with me.
Oh, so why should the country let him come in?
Because
Well, you won't even take
they
it.
got their own house.
It's his world. We're living in it.
Dude.
Alan Dershowitz
All right.
on the Mueller witch hunt in studio next. Famed Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz has long called for Mueller's witch hunt to come to an end, and now he's even comparing the special counsel investigation to the tactics of the former Soviet Union. Joining us now to explain, author of the new book, Trumped Up, How Criminalization of Political Differences Endangers Democracy. You know, I notice you get attacked, but you've been very consistent on the special counsel and the criminalization of political differences.
Oh, yeah. Today, we see that Mueller announces that one of the things that he's going to go after Trump for, and Rosenstein says he can do it, is collusion. Now, he's inventing a crime. There's no such crime as collusion in the federal statute. You can't just make up crimes. Nobody likes collusion. If collusion had occurred, and there's no evidence it did, if collusion had occurred, it would be a political sin. But neither Rosenstein nor Mueller can simply magically make up a crime and say, now collusion is a crime. You want to make collusion a crime in the future? Pass a statute. It's not on the books.
What about the violation of the special counsel law that Greg Jarrett was talking about? And I think it's interesting. 1 week after Paul Manafort's home is raided and his poor wife is thrown in the handcuffs, which wasn't necessary. That's typical Andrew Weissman tactics. But a week after, Rosenstein then authorizes Mueller to do it.
No, there's something very wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, the special counsel should have very narrow jurisdiction, and it should be set out in advance so everybody can see it and know it. You know, the Constitution talks about ex post facto criminal laws. The policies behind that are fair warning and constraining the government. And the government, when you have a special prosecutor, should know, and everybody should know, what he's entitled to look and what he's not entitled to look at. This special prosecutor is going to look at everything. He's beginning to look at President Trump's personal financial matters before he was president. Will he start looking at the women who are alleging actions against him? Where does it stop? We know that the Clinton special counsel started with Whitewater and ended up with a blue dress, and that's just wrong.
Where does Jonathan Turley, a smart law professor, also on the other side politically than where I am, he made a good point. He thought the appointment by the Attorney General of the prosecutor Huber that actually helps Trump because it could move so much faster.
I agree with that. And first of all, that's what should have happened when special counsel was appointed. They shouldn't have appointed a special counsel in the beginning. They should have had somebody within the Justice Department look at it initially, look at the whole issue of Russian involvement in the election, and then, if it looked like there was evidence of crimes that couldn't be investigated by the Justice Department, then maybe you move to
So you think the Attorney General has a right?
Has what?
Has it right by doing it this way?
Oh, I think this time he has it right. Now, the other problem, of course, is Rosenstein. I don't know how he remains on this case. He is the major witness that any decent Trump lawyer calls. He's the guy who wrote the memo. The first question you want to ask him if there's an obstruction of justice investigation is, how can there be obstruction of justice? Yeah, you wrote the memo authorizing the firing.
And he
How
also,
is he in the case?
He renewed the FISA application.
Yeah.
And then he appointed Mueller. So he's conflicted in 1,000 different ways. All right, here's where we disagree. I argue that Hillary Clinton violated 18 U.S.C. 793. She didn't want congressional oversight, mishandling of classified information. Then she subpoenaed. Emails are deleted, 33,000, then acid washing the hard drive, and then beating up your devices.
And as a result of that, she lost the election because Comey investigated it and said there was no crime, but what she did was careless. Don't you think that's the appropriate way to deal with this
listen, you're my defense attorney. I love you, but is it careless when you acid wash your hard drive, delete subpoenaed emails, and beat the crap out of your BlackBerry?
Well, she didn't do that, of course. Other people did it. And the question is that was she appropriately investigated? And was the decision a correct one not to proceed criminally?
But then that brings up Lisa Page and Peter Strzok and James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Loretta Lynch meeting Bill on the tarmac. That sounds like a fix.
I don't like any of that. I think Bill Clinton made a terrible mistake having that meeting because that's what led to the Attorney General recusing herself, leading to Comey taking over the investigation, leading to the statement he made, leading to her losing the election.
Strzok and Comey writing the exoneration months before they interview her or 17 other key witnesses?
It's worth looking into. It's worth
sounds like a fix, is it?
Not a special counsel, but it's worth looking into. Again, maybe a political sin, but not a federal crime.
Okay, but if you write an exoneration for an investigation,
not a crime.
It sounds like the fix is in. That would be obstruction, wouldn't it?
No. First of all, I don't think the Attorney General can obstruct justice by...
I'm not talking about the Attorney General. I'm talking about the FBI director.
It's a stretch, and I don't want to stretch the criminal law. You've exposed it. Let the people judge. Let the public judge. I don't think appointing another special counsel makes up for the mistake of appointing the first special counsel.
Thank you, Professor. When we come back, President Trump embarrassed the fake news media at the White House. We'll show you.